Cause, a principle, aim, or movement that because of a deep commitment, one is prepared to defend or advocate. Karibu. Karibu is a Kiswahili word that means welcome. Welcome, you found yourself in a peaceful place, a place where you can grow and develop, and we hope grow and develop to your fullest potential. This is a podcast that we hope will expand your mind and raise your consciousness. Welcome to The Cause, conversations on music, history, and democracy. The struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, and it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be imposed on them. And these will continue till they are resisted with either words or blows or with both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. In the light of these ideas, Black folk will be hunted in the North and held and flogged in the South, so long as they submit to those devilish outrages and make no resistance, either moral or physical. Men may not get all they pay for in this world, but they must certainly pay for all they get. If we ever get free from the oppressions and wrongs heaped on us, we must pay for their removal. We must do this by labor, by suffering, by sacrifice, and, if needs be, by our lives and the lives of others. Frederick Douglass. Welcome to The Cause, conversations on music, history, and democracy. I'm your host, Dr. Reiland Rabaka, professor of African, African American, and Caribbean Studies, and the founder and director of the Center for African and African American Studies at the University of Colorado, Boulder. On this podcast, we explore great causes, those principles, aims, and movements that have shaped our world. Today, we are turning to one of the most powerful and consequential movements in modern history, the Abolitionist Movement, the fight to end slavery and liberate enslaved people in the 18th and 19th centuries. Welcome to The Cause.
Oh, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows.
All right, so the first thing we need to do is to define and really sort of ask the key question about this great cause called the Abolitionist Movement. And so the question is, what is abolitionism? What is abolitionism? At its core, abolitionism was the political and moral movement to bring slavery to an end. Abolitionists rejected the notion that human beings could be treated as property, sold, bought, and brutalized. They insisted that slavery was not only an economic system, it was a moral atrocity, a violation of human dignity, and an assault on the democratic ideals proclaimed in documents like the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. The major goals of abolitionism were clear and uncompromising. Number one, immediate emancipation of enslaved men, women, and children. Number two, legal prohibition of slavery across states and territories. And number three, recognition of Black humanity, citizenship, and equality. Abolitionism was not monolithic. We need to get that very clear. Some advocated gradual emancipation. Others called for immediate freedom. Some even saw colonization, which is to say, sending freed Black folk back to Africa, as the solution, while Black abolitionists, African American abolitionists, often rejected this, demanding freedom and justice right here in America. So this episode, for me, is extra special because we need some of that abolitionist spirit, some of that spirit of resistance, some of that spirit focused on freedom, on justice and liberation. We need some of that right here, right now in the 21st century. Abolitionism. Wow. And the clear goals, as we said, one, immediate emancipation. Two, legal prohibition. And three, recognition of Black humanity, citizenship, and equality. Now, it's important to recognize African Americans' humanity because the majority of our time in this country, we have been seen as either subhuman or non-human. What else is the enslavement? What else is holding people in shackles and chains and brutalizing them, if not an attempt to dehumanize them, to rob them of their human dignity? Woo! Ha! Oh!
Coming for to carry me home. Sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home.
All right, so now that we have an understanding, a working definition of what abolitionism was, now we need to take on the abolitionist movement in the United States. I have to say in the United States because this was a global movement. They were enslaving African people all over the world, certainly all around the Atlantic Ocean, which is why we call it the Black Atlantic to this day. And so it's really important for us to take a deep dive into the abolitionist movement here in the United States. So, in the United States, the abolitionist movement grew from small, scattered voices in the late 1700s into a powerful moral and political force by the mid-1800s. Early resistance included the petitions of free Black communities, the religious activism of Quakers, and the revolutionary language of liberty itself. By the 1830s, abolitionism had become a national cause. Spread through newspapers like The Liberator, abolitionist societies, fiery public lectures, and courageous acts of civil disobedience. It was a movement of ideas and actions. From lawsuits and petitions to the Underground Railroad, from fiery orations in northern cities to enslaved people's rebellions in the South. Abolitionism was quite literally a fight for life, liberty, and democracy. So I want you to think about this, and I want you to think very deeply about this. We are talking about a life and death struggle. Freedom. We're talking about people joining together, banding together to fight for freedom, to fight for liberty and democracy here. Who else would know that, Frederick Douglass says, more than folks who have been enslaved in the United States of America? It's almost oxymoronic to think about American democracy and enslaved people in the belly of American democracy, held, shackled, and chained. 1619 to 1865, here in these United States of America. And then when we talked about the fiery public lectures, and we talked about the courageous acts of civil disobedience, I hope you all can see the ways in which the abolitionist movement was, in fact, the major movement model for the civil rights movement of the 1950s and the 1960s. I mean, think about all of those fiery public lectures, of course, from Martin Luther King Jr., but also from Fannie Lou Hamer, from Ella Baker, from Septima Clark, from Bayard Rustin. I could go on, right? And just think about all of those courageous acts of civil disobedience during the civil rights movement, just like they had 100 years before during the abolitionist movement. I mean, we are connecting some historical and historical dots today. Oh, the cause, the abolitionist movement. So all throughout this episode, you're hearing some of the excerpts of the soundtrack of the abolitionist movement, which was called The Spirituals. Most people don't realize that African-American music begins on a sacred note. The first black song was sacred song. So before you get to the secular blues, you've got to understand for 100 years, enslaved African-American ancestors were singing spirituals. There's something powerful, poetic, lyrical, deeply and profoundly moving when we hear the spirituals. That is the basis, the bedrock, the foundation of all African-American music, the spirituals. And so all throughout this episode, we're hearing the beauty, the majesty, the grandeur of the spirituals.
The trumpet sound
So now we've come to the point where it's important to discuss prominent African-American abolitionists, just to really put people on. Because there's a lot of misconceptions about the abolitionist movement, if in fact people know about it. Because again, I think there are a lot of folks who have historical amnesia, cultural amnesia. They have really sort of forgotten the history of America. They have revised it. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to talk about it. And the point of this podcast is to generate some conversation, some dialogue, some discussion about abolitionists then and abolitionists now, because we still have them. You're listening to an abolitionist. So prominent African-American abolitionists. No discussion of abolitionism can be complete without highlighting the monumental contributions of African Americans themselves. As Frederick Douglass said, ain't nobody gonna give you freedom. You're gonna have to fight for it. You're gonna have to sacrifice for it. You're gonna have to suffer for it. You're gonna have to struggle for it. You see? So we need to understand the vanguard role that enslaved African Americans and free African Americans played in the abolitionist movement on principle. If we are principled people, on principle, we should start with the emancipatory efforts of African Americans themselves. And so first and foremost, we begin with the godmother of the abolitionist movement, Harriet Tubman. She was known as the Moses of her people. She escaped enslavement, risked her life, returning to the South again and again to free others through the Underground Railroad. She later served as a Union spy and a nurse during the Civil War. Harriet Tubman, the godmother of Black America. We go from Harriet Tubman to Frederick Douglass. And Frederick Douglass, he escaped enslavement to become one of the most eloquent orators, authors, and statesmen of the 19th century. His autobiography, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, revealed the brutality of slavery, while his speeches demanded America live up to its ideals of freedom. When I was in junior high school, I read the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass for the first time. And it changed the trajectory of my life. It raised my consciousness. Although I was in the public housing projects, I realized that my ancestors had it worse. It struck me. It shook me to my core. Frederick Douglass had it worse. Harriet Tubman had it worse. When I came to that realization, there was absolutely nothing anybody could tell me was impossible. There was nothing I could not achieve. It is like Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, they were my superheroes. They became, as early as junior high school, they became what Superman and Wonder Woman was to the other little children. But they was real. They really endured the shackles and chains, the beatings and the whippings, and all of the assaults and violent attacks. They were real human beings. This is not a comic book. They were not Marvel Universe superheroes. These are real people in the United States of America, and they won against all the odds. They achieved one of the greatest human victories in human history. Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, they changed the trajectory of my entire life. I would not be who I am if I did not have them as examples, starting in junior high school all the way up to this very recording of this podcast. I'm saying this as sincerely, as humbly as I possibly can. I owe them a great debt. I would not be who I am. In fact, I found myself in them, in their lives and in their struggles. I owe them so much. I don't have enough words to express the profundity of my reverence for Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass. But before I close out, I'd like to introduce you to two more of the most iconic African-American abolitionists. I speak of none other than Sojourner Truth. She was formerly enslaved, and she became a traveling preacher and orator. She linked abolitionism to women's rights. She insisted on the full humanity of both African American and women in general, and especially African American women. Oh, yeah. Oh, we up in here today. Oh, it was Sojourner Truth's famous "Ain't I a Woman" speech that really, for me, is the roots of intersectionality. She talks about being Black, being a woman, being enslaved. I mean, all of these interlocking systems of oppression, from racism and sexism, right, to classism. She was part of the underclass. I mean, that's where the enslaved would be situated. I know I said situated instead of situated, since they want me to speak. I'm speaking the language of my ancestors, you know. I'm fluent in Ebonics. I could do this all day. But Sojourner Truth's contributions to the origins of intersectionality is powerful. It's something we should think deeply about. Ain't I a woman? I'm enslaved. I'm Black. I'm a woman. I'm part of the underclass. I'm a mother. I'm a worker. Whoa. All these intersectional categories, long before we have a term for it. I better stop, because somebody ain't listening like they supposed to have been. And last but certainly not least, when we start thinking about those iconic African-American abolitionists, I want to end with David Walker. His 1929 appeal to the colored citizens of the world was a radical manifesto urging enslaved people to resist and rise up, striking fear in the hearts of slaveholders and galvanizing free Black communities. David Walker, his 1829 appeal to the colored citizens of the world. These figures remind us abolition was not something done for African Americans. It was a movement led by African Americans.
And be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my own grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
Woo! We up in here today. Yeah, we going all the way back. Who knew studying American history and culture and movements could be so exciting? You know, so much fun up in your eardrum. Ho! Oh, yeah. Yeah. We got the studio jumping and bumping tonight. You know, I feel like Jimi Hendrix recording at Electric Ladyland circa 1967, 1968. And don't make me start talking about Axis Bold as Love. Jimi Hendrix, are you experienced? Oh.
Are you ready to dive deep into the rich histories, cultures, and arts of Africa and the African diaspora? At the Center for African and African American Studies, affectionately known as the CAUSE, we're leading the way in research, arts, and student engagement at the University of Colorado, Boulder. The CAUSE is more than just a research center. It's a space where students, faculty, artists, allies, and activists come together to explore African and African American experiences, from historical legacies to modern cultural expressions. And at the heart of it all, our students, playing a central role in everything we do. They're the future of this important cultural legacy, working side by side with faculty on groundbreaking projects and events that impact not just the campus, but the community and wider world. Research projects and events that impact not just our beloved CU campus, but the community and world at large.
Our mission? To foster academic excellence, social responsibility, and artistic expression, with programs that inspire leadership and advocacy for social justice. Whether you're interested in visual arts, music, or deepening your understanding of African American culture, the CAUSE is the place for you.
But we can't do it alone. The CAUSE relies on the generous support of our community to continue making a difference. By giving to the Center for African and African American Studies, you help us expand research, create opportunities for artists, support our students, and drive meaningful social change. And right now, your gift will go even further. All donations will be matched by CU Boulder Chancellor Justin Swartz for up to $1 million or until May 30th, 2026. To make your impact today, visit colorado.edu/center/cause and click on Support the Cause. Every contribution, large or small, brings us closer to a future of unity, knowledge, and transformation.
So, if you're looking for a community where history, culture, and creativity converge, visit the Center for African and African American Studies at CU Boulder. Come join the CAUSE and be a part of a movement for unity, knowledge, and social change.
Learn more and give today at colorado.edu/center/cause. We can't wait to welcome you to the CAUSE.
I want to transition now. So we've talked about some of the prominent African American abolitionists. Now I want to give credit where credit is due. And this is my love letter to all of the authentic allies, the authentic anti-racists out there. This is my little love letter to you. Now let's discuss some of the prominent white abolitionists. Oh yes, you heard it right here on the CAUSE podcast. We're going to discuss some of the prominent. I'm trying to give you some models. I don't want you to think you was the first one, to really embrace anti-racism. I think it's important to give 21st century white allies some historic models for their anti-racism and for their allyship. So right now, listen carefully. Class is in session, so come and get your lesson. I'm doing it. There were also white Americans who risked reputation, livelihood, and sometimes their lives for abolition. Let's start with William Lloyd Garrison. He was the founder of the Liberty newspaper. He demanded immediate emancipation and uncompromising moral opposition to African American enslavement. William Lloyd Garrison. If you want to check out something, go back and get his newspaper that he edited called The Liberator. The Liberator. I have the complete editions of The Liberator here. It is profoundly inspiring. And then from William Lloyd Garrison, we can go directly to my beloved John Brown. I repeat, John Brown. Even Malcolm X loved John Brown. John Brown was a militant abolitionist. Yes, that's a thing. John Brown was a militant abolitionist who believed slavery could only be destroyed through armed struggle. I just want you to think about that for a moment. John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry in 1859 was a dramatic, though unsuccessful, attempt to spark an uprising among the enslaved. So here is a white brother, a militant abolitionist by the name of John Brown. And he believed the only way to topple the system of slavery was through armed struggle. And so if you're thinking right now, why have I never heard of John Brown? That's a really good question. So here you are. You went through K through 12. You probably got your one of these big time degrees from the University of Colorado Boulder or some other illustrious institution. And most people have never heard of John Brown. Last but certainly not least, the Grimke sisters, Angelina and Sarah Grimke. I admire them so much. These white women from a wealthy slaveholding family in South Carolina, they became outspoken critics of slavery and advocates for women's rights. And look, once again, much like Sojourner Truth, connecting human rights and civil rights to women's rights. I'm talking about the roots of intersectionality, the roots of allyship back in the abolitionist movement. These allies, William Lord Garrison, John Brown, and the Grimke sisters, Angelina Grimke and Sarah Grimke, these allies demonstrate how white abolitionists could and indeed did use their privilege to challenge the institution of slavery, though often in fraught and complicated ways. By that I mean they were not perfect allies. I don't know if there is a such thing as a perfect ally or a perfect anti-racist. You know why? Now go ahead, put your eardrum up to the speaker. Push your headphones closer. I'm finna ease up on your eardrum. There are no perfect abolitionists. There are no perfect allies because there are no perfect people. We need to stop that. We need to stop demanding that people involved in movements for freedom, people involved in progressive struggles, somehow or another, we need to be perfect. Well, I say it all the time. I am perfectly imperfect. I'm just the way my Creator made me. And contradiction, sometimes it's at the heart of human culture and civilization. Oh, I just dropped the mic and I quickly picked it back up. We talk about contradictions today. So again, it's not necessary. Somebody needs to hear this. I'm talking about the authentic anti-racist listening, or those who aspire to be authentic, those who aspire to be authentic anti-racist, and those who aspire to be authentic allies. There's no need to embrace the pitfalls of perfectionism. I see you. I hear you. I hope this segment of the podcast will encourage you. If nobody is checking for you, I'm checking for you. If nobody loves you, acknowledges the hard work you're doing, the work you're doing to develop yourself, the work you're doing to fight against these systems of oppression, I'm acknowledging you right here, right now in this episode. I feel you, and I hope you can feel me.
Go down
One of the things I am excited about is that I get a chance to expose some of the architecture, some of the inner workings, the intellectual inner workings of this thing called intersectionality. And connected to that would be allyship. And so we've been talking about some of the roots of intersectionality in the abolitionist movement. And so it's really important for me to emphasize some of the prominent women abolitionists. So notice I didn't just quarantine them to one little segment or one little section of this podcast. I've been talking about them throughout. When we talked about prominent African-American abolitionists, we shouted out Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth. When we talked about prominent white or prominent European-American abolitionists, obviously I invoked my beloved Angelina Grimke and Sarah Grimke. But right now, I want to really sort of give some special attention to women abolitionists. We often call them feminist abolitionists. And they played indispensable roles in abolitionism. They made, immeasurable contributions to abolitionism. And so it's only right that we shout out someone by the name of Maria Stewart. And Maria Stewart was the first woman in America, black or white, to speak publicly to a mixed audience. That means an audience of men and women about political and social issues. Her name is Maria Stewart. This is the first. So again, it's important. You start talking about the roots of American feminism. If they don't start with Maria Stewart, something is wrong. See, somebody ain't, that ain't right now. Come on. We need to sort of get right. And Maria Stewart was African American. So the first woman in America, black or white, to speak publicly to a mixed audience of men and women about social and political issues was an African American woman named Maria Stewart. She linked abolition to the broader rights of black people. Powerful. This is just a little footnote for the fun of it. For those who really want to check out Maria Stewart, please check out the Voices of Democracy website to check out her 1832 speech, that first speech by a woman in America to address a male and female audience. 1832, Maria Stewart delivers this electrifying speech in 1832. So the first recorded instance of a woman in the United States of America addressing men and women. The first woman to do that is an African-American woman by the name of Maria Stewart. We go from Maria Stewart to Harriet Beecher Stowe. She's the author, as we all know, of Uncle Tom's Cabin. This is a novel that profoundly shaped public opinion against slavery. In fact, President Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, famously called her the little lady who made this big war. That's a quote. Abraham Lincoln said of Harriet Beecher Stowe that she was the little lady who made this big war. Of course, he's speaking of the Civil War. So this is just saying, again, women's contributions may not look like men's contributions, and that's a good thing, right? And so she made a contribution. Again, however, we want to sort of size it up and assess it. It is important. Uncle Tom's Cabin is an important novel, an important work that profoundly shaped public opinion at that time against enslavement. Last, but certainly not least, Lucretia Mott. Lucretia Mott. She was a Quaker abolitionist who also played a founding role in the women's suffrage movement. So notice there's a theme here that many of the same folks who played prominent roles in the women's rights movement of the 18th and 19th century, certainly the 19th century that's going to evolve into the women's suffrage movement of the late 19th and early 20th century. They were also abolitionists. So this whole notion then of feminist abolitionism, and in fact, one of my absolute favorite feminist abolitionists, her name is Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. And she is considered the Toni Morrison of the 19th century. She wrote a series of novels, 5 if I'm correct, that really were transformative, not only for showing the experiences of African Americans in general, but African American women in particular. But if you want to read something, her work profoundly shaped, and then I could speak of all of the women who wrote so-called slave narratives of the enslaved, from Harriet Jacobs all the way through. Just really some profound work, the contribution. So together, these women remind us that abolition was deeply connected to the fight for gender justice as well. And so that's why you can see I locate the origins of intersectionality in abolitionism and the abolitionist movement.
Well, the riverbanks make some mighty true road. Dead trees mark the way. Left foot, peg foot, traveling on. Follow the drink and go. Follow the drink and go.
Throughout this episode, I've been talking about and attempting to make connections from, the abolitionist movement and abolitionism, let's say, of the 18th and 19th century to the long legacy of abolition, and how the movement, the abolitionist movement of the 18th and 19th centuries literally serves, that's the roots of anti-racism and allyship today. So the question becomes, why revisit abolitionism today? That is a fair question. I want to go there with you. That is a fair question. I would respond. Progressive, abolitionist, radical abolitionists would respond, because abolition was not only about ending slavery. I'm speaking slowly and clearly for you, because abolition was not only about ending slavery. It was about imagining a new society built on freedom, equality, and justice. The abolitionist struggle laid the groundwork for the civil rights movement of the 20th century and the anti-racist movements of the 21st century. When we talk about anti-racism today, the deliberate effort to dismantle systemic racism, we are standing on the shoulders of abolitionists. When we talk about allyship, using one's privilege to advocate for justice for others, we are carrying forward the legacy of white and non-black abolitionists who joined the fight against slavery. When we talk about intersectionality, we are echoing the insights of women like Sojourner Truth and the Grimke sisters, who connected the struggles for racial and gender equality. The abolitionist movement is not just history. It is a living legacy.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony
I don't know if I can adequately express what Harriet Tubman means to me. So today, for the poetic pause, I'm going to attempt to put into words just some of what Harriet Tubman means to me. And so this is a brand new piece I've been working on, and it is called Harriet Tubman, subtitle, The Godmother, the Moses of Our People. That title is Harriet Tubman, the Godmother, the Moses of Our People. And I want to begin it with an epigraph from Harriet Tubman. I know it's a bit unusual to start a poem with an epigraph, but you know, I'm really into a lot of avant-garde poetry, experimental poetry, just like I'm really into a lot of alternative rap, and my students will tell you that I'm really into alt rap. Holla if you hear me. Anyway, this is the premiere of Harriet Tubman, subtitle, The Godmother, the Moses of Our People. It begins with an epigraph. If you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If there's shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. Keep going. If you want a taste of freedom, keep going. Harriet Tubman. After the Middle Passage, proud, pale people held the ancestors in bondage. From the hull of slave ships to cotton fields and chains and whips. They would cry out in the dead of night, cries echoing through the thick humidity surrounding slave quarters, where the smell of chitterlings floated through the air, where soul takers and spirit breakers came and went without a single care, where mothers were robbed of their motherhood, where children were robbed of their childhood. Many thought ancestral enslavement was good. And Harriet Tubman sang soft songs in a hard and bitter world. She sang freedom songs for shackled and chained black boys and black girls. She was always more than a slave. She struggled and fought and freed and inspired until the day she went down in her grave. No more noble a life can a human being live than to give and give and give, asking only that inhumanity cease and love and compassion and peace exponentially increase. Harriet Tubman is still gently humming, swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down, but still my soul feels heavenly bound. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Once she freed herself, she freed somebody else. I said, once she freed herself, she freed somebody else. She gave us a model of selflessness and sacrifice, a model of what it means to be deeply committed to love and liberation. Real love and liberation means moving beyond yourself. It means helping somebody else. Undaunted, she went back and forth, freeing folk. South to north, north to south, risking life and limb. They literally cut off the ancestors' arms and legs if they ran from the horror and hell of enslavement. Remember Kunta Kinte? The Godmother, the Moses of our people, Harriet Tubman, the conductor of the Underground Railroad, carefully carrying each precious load. Where others ill-treated the ancestors, she sang them soft songs in hard times. Go down, Moses, follow the drinking gourd, and wade in the water. After the Middle Passage, proud, pale people held the ancestors in bondage from the hull of slave ships to cotton fields and chains and whips. They would cry out in the dead of night, cries echoing through the thick humidity surrounding slave quarters, where the smell of chitterlings free-floated through the air, where soul takers and spirit breakers came and went without a single care, where mothers were robbed of their motherhood, where children were robbed of their childhood. Many thought ancestral enslavement was good. And Harriet Tubman sang soft songs in a hard and bitter world. She sang freedom songs for shackled and chained black boys and black girls. She was always more than a slave. She struggled and fought and freed and inspired until the day she went down in her grave. No more noble a life can a human being live than to give and give and give, asking only that inhumanity cease and love and compassion and peace exponentially increase. Once she freed herself, she freed somebody else. I said, once she freed herself, she freed somebody else. God bless the spirit, the soul of Harriet Tubman. Woo. Harriet Tubman. The spirit of Harriet Tubman. I invoke it. Yeah. She's still here with us because you can't kill a soul. You can kill a body, but you can't kill a soul. So her spirit, her soul is here. It inspires me so deeply. It uplifts me. It lets me know whatever I go through, I can endure. I have the ability, the power to endure and to overcome. And when I think about Harriet Tubman, I don't have words. I really don't have words. So I'm going to have to close out here. I want to thank you for taking this journey with me, this journey through the abolitionist movement. It's not something that we talk a lot about in the 21st century, but it's something I think that we should talk about. And so let me close out peacefully and gently and lovingly as we reflect on the courage of Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, William Lord Garrison, John Brown, Maria Stewart, and so many others. We must ask ourselves, what does it mean to be an abolitionist in our time, right here and right now? In the 18th and 19th centuries, abolitionists fought to end slavery. Today, the fight is against patriarchy, queerphobia, transphobia, mass incarceration, systemic racism, police violence, voter suppression, and economic inequality. And I could go on and on. There's so many things that we are concerned about, that we are confronting and combating. The call of abolition is clear. to abolish systems that deny human dignity, and to imagine new systems, a whole new world that affirms life, liberty, and justice for all. That's where this episode is connected to the episode that we did on radical democracy. Because again, abolition, don't let that word scare you. Abolition is about abolishing the systems that deny human dignity. It's about us not simply abolishing something, but building up a whole new world, a whole new society that affirms life, liberty, and justice for all. So I invite you, I challenge you to become a 21st century abolitionist, to stand against racism in all its forms, to stand against sexism in all its forms, to stand against heterosexism in all its forms, to be an ally, not in name only, but in action, to carry forward the cause of freedom.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Lord, we shall overcome.
Once again, thank you so much for joining us on the Cause podcast. This has been a beautiful journey, and I lovingly appreciate each and every listener. I respect your time. I respect your energy, and I thank you very, very sincerely. You could be doing something else. There are a million other things that you could be doing in this world so full of distractions, so full of corruption, so full of so much going on. Thank you for spending a little time with us here on this podcast. I want to close out. This has been The Cause, conversations on music, history, and democracy. I'm your host, Dr. Reiland Rabaka. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, keep the cause alive.
Thank you for joining us for the Cause Podcast with Dr. Reiland Rabaka. For your letters, questions, and suggestions regarding the podcast, email us, thecause@gmail.com. CAAAS. The Cause Podcast with Dr. Reiland Rabaka is produced and edited by John Arnold and is a production of the Center for African and African American Studies, The Cause, at the University of Colorado Boulder. For more information, visit us online at colorado.edu/center/cause. CAAAS.
Class is in session, so come and get your lesson. Ooh, the Cause Podcast. I love that. Do you love that?